Hey, what's up guys? Travis Fulton here and welcome to Online Gainz. Each week, I'm gonna be sharing with you real insight on how I'm developing players all across the world on full swing, short game, and putting. Be sure to tune in. You look from the target line view here. Very clean setup. Very, lot of good stuff there. Obviously, you got a very good golf swing, and I think when you kind of go to this view, you start looking at some of the same things, right? You can see the head right there. You can see how cap showing up there on the top of the red line, the top. Then as you go down, it disappears, right? So I think there's an opportunity to get you, again, more loaded. And usually, when the belt buckle spins a little and the spine flexes down, like you tend to kind of be a little top heavy and kind of hanging out over the ball of the foot or the toe too much, right? You kind of tend to get top heavy out over the toes. And when I show you this game plan and how to get a little bit more loaded up, belt buckle moving a little more lateral diagonally towards your right heel, spine extending up, the weight wanting to move deeper into the right heel, that there'll be, it's a little different, right, than what you're doing. And so I would kind of tackle this, as a lower body segment in what you want the pelvis, the belt buckle to do first, and then the upper body would be its own kind of, bucket. So you kind of have your lower body, here's what we want it to do, and then you have your upper body, here's what we want it to do. And then you kind of blend those two together, and you just kind of, as you work on those two together and you start recognizing how you're putting weight into the ground, more into the right heel, the right glute, I think, will feel more active when you do this. And then, then you kind of got to go find it, right? And it'll take some balls for you to kind of get there first, feel it. Yep, I'm doing it right. Okay, now let me go hit it. And you'll hit some good ones, you hit some weird ones. But I think the key is to quantify a little more of this load up. And I'm going to show you a game plan on how to do those two things. So here we are at the driver, ball position forward in the stance. Right hand grip, definitely a little weaker than the left. The turn to the top. I always like to put a line kind of off the trail hip here. And your hip kind of spins away a little, like the right hip kind of spins away just a little bit from it. And again, the spine wanting to kind of move down in flexion right there. You can see it with the head here as the line there at the top and right there early. And so the opportunity here, if you wanted to try to get perhaps just a little bit more of a wind up here in distance, it would be to let the belt buckle kind of drift a little in towards the right heel, and then feel like when you turn, the spine kind of stands up a little bit, right? So the belt buckle, instead of spinning a little away, right? Instead of the belt buckle, say, spinning away this way, the belt buckle would move a little bit more that way. Right side of the pelvis would want to climb a little bit more, and then the spine would want to turn and kind of stay taller to the top of the swing. And I think you would feel like you're a little more loaded into the trail side. Now coming down, I mean, that's a strong move right there. A lot of good stuff coming down. Really like the timing of the swing. I think the club head lines up nicely with the hands through the zone here. You've got a nice, I would say, sufficient lag through the strike. Rotate around the left post nicely. I mean, that's clean stuff right there. And as I look at this, I'd be like, all right, well, how would we make that better? Well, I think we could probably get a little more loaded. And loaded, I would say, entails for you kind of two things. Maybe a little less spin in the belt buckle, a little less spin away, and then, you know, a little taller with the spine extending. And I think both of those things would feel like you would be more over here, you know, on the left leg, and then the spine would feel like it's kind of elongating more up. So I'm going to show you some thoughts on how to do that. All right, so a lot of good stuff with your swing. I'm going to share with you a couple things here. One is what the lower body is doing, and then the second is what the upper body is doing, and both of those, how they apply in your backswing. A lot of good stuff in your swing. The first being the lower body. Your belt buckle, when you turn to the top, your belt buckle tends to kind of hang out probably in the same spot that it started, or if anything, your belt buckle might be even moving a little towards your left foot as you turn to the top of the swing. It's subtle, okay? So the opposite of your belt buckle maybe spinning and hanging towards your left would be letting your belt buckle move a little more diagonally towards your right heel in turning. Okay, now when I do that, I feel like my pelvis has moved just a little bit more up underneath me, and the right side of my pelvis is climbing. It's getting a little taller versus my belt buckle spinning or hanging left, and then it feels like my hips are a little more level versus over here, okay? So I like the idea of just a little shift early, belt buckle towards the heel, then turn, and you'll feel that right side climbing. In fact, I feel like I can kind of stand up here on my right side, where before I think you were hanging here, and I don't think you'd be able to do that. So I like that little, I call it like a lower body trace, belt buckle tracing diagonally towards my right heel, and then really turning and feeling that right side climbing, and I feel like I'm right there on top of my foot more, right there more on kind of deeper into my right heel. Now, the second piece of that is the spine. Your spine tends to hang down a little in flexion. Flexion, of course, is this way, extension is this way, back like this. So when a player spins and hangs a little left, okay, they tend to want to kind of hang down like this. Okay, so the spine wants to kind of drop a little, right? And that's what we saw the head do, is drop. So the opposite of that is extension. And it's a lot easier to extend if the pelvis is kind of climbing, the right side is working more up. Now I feel like my spine can extend. And when you do that, you'll probably feel like you're getting a little taller. So I trace and extend up, okay? So I trace, let the right side climb and extend up. So my spine extending up, I feel taller. It's really the ultimate feel versus real here. You'll swear to yourself that you're actually physically lifting. You'll feel like I'm actually going up as it feels. Now you will if you lose focus of the ball. You don't want to do that. So you got to stay looking at it. But you'll feel like you're getting an inch taller. You'll video yourself and you draw that line across your head and you're in pretty good shape. So these two things, I think, you know, why would you do these two things? I think for you, it's going to give you a little more of a loading phase. It's going to give you a little bit more power. It's going to give you a little bit more time coming down to do what you want to do. It'd probably be more conducive into your mid to long iron game, up to your driver, from a power and even probably a lift standpoint, a launch standpoint. So work on those two things: lower body, tracing, right side of the pelvis climbing. Get over there, feel that right hip, that right glute engaged, and then take some extension with it with the spine. Let yourself elongate up, load it into the right heel, and then go get it. Hope that helps.